Hello, this is Belinda and welcome back to my channel. It has been a little while since I have uploaded anything to YouTube. I had to take a little break for a couple of big things that were going on in my life. I am studying at university and I had a lot of assignments and exams due, but the most exciting reason why I have been absent is that I got married on the 4th of May. So I thought a good way to get back into my YouTube videos was to start off with what's going to be quite a big long-term project, and that is my wedding album. What I have in front of me here is a box that I have used to collect supplies that I've been gathering to put this wedding album together. This is a box that came, I think, with some Ali Edward goodies, probably some Week in the Life stuff or some December Daily stuff. I have a few of these boxes in my room with some themed supplies stored in them, and they just sit inside a storage box, and I've labelled each of them to tell me what supplies are inside. So I'm going to open this up and just have a quick look through to show you what's in this particular box of supplies. And this is stuff that I've been collecting probably over the last 12 months. Obviously knowing that I'm getting married and I'll be using these things to put my wedding album together. So just here is some of the papers and things that I used for the decor at the actual wedding reception. So I've kept some of those because I thought that was a nice way to tie in the aesthetic of the wedding into the album. And I've got lots of different bits and pieces. Obviously, when I've shopped for these supplies, I knew what the aesthetic and the feel of the wedding was going to be like. So I've bought supplies that are really complementary to that aesthetic that we had throughout our wedding. It was a little bit eclectic, but I'm sure you'll see that as I go through and I film my process videos putting the album together and you see the photos. So I've got some Simple Stories collections here. I've got Kissing Booth and Beautiful, some stickers, some ephemera pieces from Kaisercraft. I've got the Two Souls, which is their most recent wedding themed collection, and Everlasting. Some Echo Park ephemera. This is called Wedding Bliss. This is the sticker sheet from that Kaisercraft Two Souls collection. Some more Simple Stories ephemera, some wooden flourishes, more ephemera, some little buttons from Kaisercraft, some washi tape. I have a 6.5 inch paper pad from Kaisercraft. I do have this Project Life, I believe it is Southern Weddings mini kit, so I might use some pieces from that. I picked up this Heidi Swap Storyline wedding Deck of Days kit. I haven't even looked at that yet, so I'm excited to see what's in there. I also have, this was something that I picked up in a very old Studio Calico sale. This is some 4x4 cards. It was designed to make a mini album, and it's a wedding or engagement themed mini album, so I'll probably use some of those. And that kit also came, I believe, with this little Jasmine Jones designed stamp set. From Mambi, I've got some gold foil stickers. I ended up with 2 of those because I forgot that I had bought them, and I'm sorry for the glare there. My Mind's Eye wedding themed stickers. This is the chipboard from those 2. This is another Simple Stories collection, Always and Forever. I've got some doilies. And now here I am ready to create a few layouts already. So I've got some of my photos printed. And the rest of this box, there's the Simple Stories Romance collection, the Simple Stories Kissing Booth collection, the Echo Park papers. I did put to the side there the most recent Echo Park Wedding Day collection kit, My Mind's Eye, and then there's some more Kaisercraft papers and just some random bits and pieces of paper that I've collected. What I will probably do after I've put these first couple of layouts together is just go through this box of supplies and curate it a little bit more. I know I've got way too much for what I'm intending to do with this wedding album. I'm not intending to scrap every single photo. Once I've got the professional photos back, I probably will get a really nice photo book made with those photos, but the photos don't tell the whole story in my opinion. So I will be putting an album together, just one 12 by 12, and my intention there is just to tell some of the stories that aren't really represented in the photos, things like the vows, why we chose the place we chose, who the people were that were involved in our wedding, and just more of the story behind the day and the story behind the magic. So it's not intended to scrap every single photo, and what that means is this box here, there is way too many supplies for one 12 by 12 album. So I think I will go through once I've done these first few layouts, and I will curate this, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what I've got left once I've done that. But for now, stick around and I will go through my very first layout from our wedding. Okay, so the photo that I'm scrapbooking here is the only photo that I have of my new husband Lee and I from our wedding day, and that was a little selfie that I took in the back of the wedding car on our way to have our photos taken. So in my Silhouette software, I've created this cut file, which is an outline of the word together. I did look for a pre-made file and I just couldn't find anything that I liked. So I'm going to back this with, first of all, some vellum and then some of that script paper, which is from the Echo Park wedding collection. When I cut the file out in the Silhouette, I also cut out a solid piece of the word together, and I'm just using that as a template and tracing around it with my pencil to get the outline, which I'll then cut out and adhere to that cut file. Now this is a little bit out of focus, so I haven't kept it on for very long, but it's just to show you the cutouts that I used to adhere together to make the title. And now I'm starting to map my photo, first of all with just some plain white untextured cardstock. And I tend to do this with most photos that I put onto layouts. I just like the definition that it gives to my photos by adding that slight white matte to it. The pink striped paper that I'm using for the background is also from that Echo Park wedding collection. And initially I was going to just use it in its entirety as a background, but as I started playing around, I realized that I did want to map that pink striped paper onto something else. Again, I had initially planned on matting it just onto some white cardstock, but then in the process realized that I wanted a little bit more added to that. So I've grabbed a black and almost like a craft colored patterned cardstock, and I'm using that to matte between this pink stripes and the white cardstock, and I really like the way that that defines the papers. But because I did change my mind a couple of times and I'd already stuck some adhesive onto the back of that pink cardstock, that pink paper, sorry, I went about this in entirely the wrong way. I was sticking papers to papers that I didn't want to stick, and I just made it really complicated. It would have been good if I had put the thought into it before starting, and that would have made the whole process much easier. But in the end it worked out, and as I said, I really liked that pop of black between the pink candy stripe and the white cardstock in the background. And there we go, just adding a bit more adhesive. I apologize, the voiceover is probably not lining up with the video very well for some reason at the moment. As I'm recording voiceovers, my video is freezing, so I'm not really seeing what's going on as I'm recording, and I'm having to stop and start the recording, so I'll have to troubleshoot that once I've finished uploading this video. And what you see me do there is use that same black and craft striped paper to add another matte to the photo, and then I'm going to add another light pink floral matte behind it. I'm just keeping it quite simple, not offsetting, just a really small simple photo matte for each of the layers here, just to add a little bit of depth and definition to that photo. and grabbing out some mixed media. So I've got this beautiful rose floral stencil, which I think is from Kaisercraft, and I'm grabbing my whipped spackle, which I haven't used a heck of a lot of. I don't do a lot of mixed media. I'm starting to play a bit more, but I like the softness that the whipped spackle gives as opposed to a modelling paste. So I'm just adding that to the background paper in a few different places behind where the photo will go, and you'll see me hold the photo up, and that's just to get an idea of where to put the next bit of the stencil down. So once I've done that, I'll leave it to dry. I was very impatient, so I didn't leave it to dry for as long as I should have, but I did keep coming back and checking. And now I know you can't see that very well because my lighting isn't great. This is the first time that I've had to use the lighting now that we're in the middle of winter. So again, I'm going to have to play around with that a little bit to get that right. So this craft cardstock here is the leftovers from what was used to create the place cards at our reception. And in the start of the video when I was going through my stash, you would have seen that I had some papers, and this is part of it. I'm going to try and include these into as many pages as I can. Like I said, it just adds a little bit of cohesiveness between what was at the wedding and what's in the album. And for the bottom edge of that, I'm just tearing off the base just to give it a little bit more texture. Tearing doesn't really come super easily to me, so it took me a little while, but yeah, I think it looks really good. Okay, so once I've added the foam to the back of that photo stack, I'm adding some glue. This was a new bottle of glue, and I don't know if you can see there towards the bottom right of the page a couple of dots. Some of the glue liquid leaked out when I opened the bottle, so I end up having to cover that up a bit later on, which you'll see. To stick this together title down, I'm adding just a whole bunch of little pieces of double-sided tape, and the reason I'm doing this is because once I had stuck all of the layers together, it ended up quite warped, and so I didn't want to add any more glue and have it warp any further. So the double-sided tape just means that it's going to stick nice and flat to my background, to my layout, and there wasn't a lot of mixed media that it was adhering to, so there's no concerns there of it lifting. So now to cover up those little dots of glue that are just underneath the title, I've found this really sweet little cardstock sticker banner which says Forever and Ever, which was really good because I was looking for a forever to add to my title anyway, and that just sits nicely underneath the word together and covers up those glue dots perfectly. So I've got my journaling typed out in strips here. I've used my typewriter. I've also grabbed a little bit of that white trim, which I adore, and I definitely want to include on this layout, but I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. So I'm playing around with the placement of my journaling strips. I've decided to pop them in two places, at the top of the layout and also underneath the title there. And then I'm grabbing out one of the ephemera collections. This is from Kaisercraft, and just having a look through to see if I want to use anything from there. I've also got some chipboard stickers. I believe these are from Simple Stories, and I've just pulled out the gold foil flowers from there, 3 of those to add around my page. And now I'm just going to play around with placing these little embellishments, which is the finishing touches for my layout. Decided to cut that trim down and use it in 2 different places, in the top right and also alongside the photo there. And then from this Kaisercraft collection of ephemera, I'm going to pull out a little pink paper printed doily, cut that in half, and I'm going to place one half of it up the top right of the layout and one half to the left of my photo. That XO piece, it does look really good, but in the end it doesn't make it onto my layout. So to adhere the journaling strips, I'm using my little Xyron sticker maker. I find this is a really quick and easy way to add adhesive to the back of my journaling strips. The only thing I don't like is that you do get about an inch of wastage with each time you run something through, and that's just the distance between the back of the runner where you put your embellishment or your paper strip down and where the tear off point is at the machine. So that's the only thing that I don't like about it, but other than that, it's pretty much my go-to for adhering any strips of journaling down. And now that I'm happy with those clusters, I'm going to start sticking down to my page. So I stuck that first flower down and it went down okay, but for the rest of them, I've decided to use a little bit of glue, only because the adhesive on the back, and it's not an old set of chipboard, but the adhesive on the back is just, it's not super sticky, so I've added some glue to the back. Now I've used some red line tape up the top there for that bit of white trim, and oh my goodness, I had such a tough time getting that backing off. So I cut out a big bit of the video there where my head was firmly over the top of my page trying to get that backing off. Does anybody else have that problem with red line tape? So that top cluster is finished and looking good. Now I'm going to move on to the cluster there alongside my photo with that white trim stuck down with a little bit of glue, and then the gold foil flower. I've kept the embellishments fairly simple here, and I really like the way that it's ended up. To finish off, I'm going to grab out some Nuvo drops and just add those in a few different places. You will see that I mess a couple of them up and wipe them off and start again, and that's totally fine. I'm not great with these Nuvo drops, so I do need a bit of practice. Thank you so much for watching this video today. There are some close-up photos at the end if you would like to see those. If you like what you've seen, please go ahead and subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. Coming up in July, I will be doing a Scrappy Christmas in July series where I'm going to work on my December daily album from 2018. So if that's your jam, stick around, and I hope you like what is coming up on my channel. Have a great day.